Welcome back, everyone, to the Know Your Game podcast. As usual, I'm James Hargrove, Communication Director for US Indoor. In today's episode, we're going to talk with Luke Wade, founder of Facility Ally, longtime friend, member, associate of US Indoor. Many of you who've been to our conference probably ran into him, have spoken to him, or at the very least have seen their booth that they set up during our trade show. Luke, thanks for being on board for this episode. How you doing?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty good here in Kansas City. Just holding the fort down.
Awesome. Well, to get things started today, I would like to talk about Facility Ally as an organization, what you guys do, how you do it, and how you got to where you are today. I know the history, of course, but I think it's worth, for our audience sake, to kind of understand your journey, your personal journey. You can start as far back as you want, or it's really up to you. But give everyone sort of a high-level overview of what Facility Ally is and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So yeah, today Facility Ally is a turnkey business support group designed for sports and entertainment facilities, offering everything you need to launch and manage your facility seamlessly. So, how did I end up here? 13 years ago in Kansas City, I was new to the city. I was living downtown, working downtown, and I got lazy and didn't want to drive 30 minutes away to play in a sand volleyball league or a softball league. So I just rented a couple fields near my house in Kansas City downtown. And we had about 1,000 people sign up for this adult sports league that I created. That company is actually called Casey Crew. It's still around today. It is the biggest and largest sport and social club in Kansas City for adults. We've gotten to youth and some other things from there. But as you can imagine, growing Casey Crew into what it is today, around 15,000 adults that play every single year and everything from softball, kickball, cornhole, pickleball, sand volleyball, basketball, you name it. We're doing almost everything you can imagine to connect people through social activity. We started renting 20, 30, 40 different facilities. We got into opening our own. And so along the way, you somehow become a facility expert in working with these facilities to run these leagues and events and pickups. And so started getting asked to help other people with facilities, again, then opened our own. And so along the way, I built a media agency to build websites and support my other business, Casey Crew, and then built the software as well to essentially support those leagues and facilities that we had opened. And so, the last couple of years really have kind of merged the media agency and the facility software company into one, Facility Ally, to really be your turnkey solution. So now today we kind of plug gaps where your ally and pretty much everything you need, from branding to website to advertising, SEO, operations, what leagues to run. And so we can do everything from build your org chart to help you hire your team and train your team, help launch leagues, adult leagues, youth leagues, programs. So really anything from A to Z when it comes to facilities, we can help with. And then, yes, we have our own facility software solution. A lot of groups are using it, but we really work with you to identify the best solution for you. So we're not just a software company. We're essentially your ally.
Absolutely. And me, again, knowing firsthand from our interactions at our conference and trade show, it's certainly true. And for anyone who's been to our conference and trade show, you'll know that you guys in this space, or you guys are not the only ones in this space. You have direct competitors at the trade show, but I think what sets you apart is your comprehensiveness and your way of consolidating so many different facets or so many different services into, like what you just said, a turnkey single spot sort of solution for our members. So in your experience at our conference and trade show, as you network with your peers and with the members and with the attendees, what would you say are some industry trends right now that you're noticing? How has our conference itself influenced the way you understand our industry? And what were some, maybe one or two, like aha moments as you came to our show and started interacting with potential clients and your peers and your competitors?
Sure. I think that as you mentioned, all in one, and that means a couple different things, right? When it comes to software, yes, there's plenty of competitors out there who all do software. No one, in my opinion, even Facility Ally, has an all-in-one solution. Everybody's working towards it. Everybody wants it. But as you know, every facility operates a little bit differently than others. They do different things. They may not do leagues and tournaments. They may just rent space. They may not have memberships or memberships. So each facility, in my opinion, needs a different solution. And so, yes, we're working to an all-in-one, but it's really all-in-one for the facilities that it makes the most sense for. And I see that with a lot of different software groups, which is why we bring more to the table, right? A lot of people pitch it as, if you get the right software, it's, you build that they will come. You don't have to do anything else in your business. Was, as we all know, operating a facility, software doesn't solve all those problems. And that's where Facility Ally comes in with everything else that you need. So when you say all in one, I look at it as all in one on branding, marketing, advertising, operations. Kind of, I've seen it in over 13 years working with over 100 different facilities. I feel like I've seen everything under the sun. So helping you maybe not make the same mistakes is what we kind of focus on. And yeah, and I've learned that a lot actually at the US Indoor Conference. Started going I think 3 or 4 years ago, and it's been really, really cool to me because I'm not just a vendor that sells services to facilities. I also own my own facilities. I also run leagues and tournaments and events. We're opening more, right? And so I'm kind of the all-in-one operator too that does it all. And so some of the things I've learned at US Indoor is actually facilities like this, daytime stuff, right? And so I'm at an 80,000 square foot arena that you come here at 6 o'clock and there's thousands, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people here, right? But in the middle of the day, it's pretty empty, right? And some of the things I learned at US Indoor about how to fill your dead space during the day with youth and senior and other programs. And so some of those have been my aha moments, that it's not just the facilities I'm working with that are struggling with these sort of things. It's almost everyone. And so that's what's so cool about the US Indoor, is that collective mindset, sharing knowledge and helping each other, that here's what we're seeing here and here's what may help you. So a couple aha moments, I would say that's definitely one of them.
Essentially, what you've accomplished in this endeavor, in my opinion, are three things. You have done well when it comes to programming. Number two, you've seen the ins and outs of running a facility firsthand. And third, automation, how to automate certain tasks. So I'd like to maybe pick your brain a little bit in each of these three areas, starting with programming. You mentioned earlier, your passion for sports, when you moved to Kansas City, you started this, we can call it a league. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what was
KC Crew.
The KC Crew. And you went from just a handful of people to 1,000, and now it's upwards of tens of thousands. What would you say was the biggest challenge in making that happen? And what was the biggest tip that you can give to someone who wants to expand their program or increase the number of people who sign up for their programming, their leagues, and their activities? What would you say on both fronts?
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a great summary, and I totally agree. The number one thing that we got into was programming, and at the time, I didn't know that's what it was called, right? I was just like, oh, I'm throwing adult beer league softball, right? Beer league sand volleyball, and so now I know that's what's called programming, and we got into pub crawls and 5Ks and all that too, right? And so there's just different types of programming. I would say one, I don't think people realize how much work goes into running an effective league that's going to continue to bring people back every single week, season after season, year over year. There's so much more that goes into it than just putting your little website out there, having people sign up and having them show up to play. It's actually very detailed and very there's so much that goes into it. From if you manage your own facility, great, right? Add another layer to that where you don't own the facility. So now I have to find facilities, partner with them, rent from them, and then I have to market it, advertise it, staff it, provide the equipment. So I'm doing everything without really having my own facility, or at least that's how it started. And it started with working at Parks and Rec departments, which was very difficult, but also a great opportunity at the same time. And so I think that number one, learning that there's so much more that goes into it. And I think where we truly were different is that I focused on all the things I didn't like in the other leagues, right? So didn't want to drive 30 minutes to play. So I found something near downtown where a lot of young people were looking for it. There were other things like other leagues I played in didn't have a scoreboard to show you what the score was. So you had to ask the official. And sometimes the official was maybe a little rude and didn't want to tell you. So added a scoreboard. I also trained our officials a little bit differently. We call them fun uncles and aunts, right? And so we just really flipped everything on its head. And I ran a league that I wanted to play in and I wanted my friends to play in. Again, I started when I was 28. So it was really for me and my friends. And so to see that really grow from 1,000 to 2,000 to 5,000 to now 15,000 a year over the last 4 or 5 years, it's just been amazing, right? And I think really focusing on the details and the communication would be the number one and two things that I would focus on.
Absolutely. And let's talk about the facility you're in right now. How did that come about?
It used to be called Kemper Arena. It is now called Hy-Vee Arena. It's actually a historic building here in the West Bottoms of Kansas City, the old Stockyards District, amazing history down here. And actually Elvis played here, Cher played here. If you ever watched WWF, Owen Hart fell to his death here in this building. They say he still haunts it. But it's really cool, amazing history, but it was a concert venue. And again, along the way of me learning business along with running sports leagues, I started realizing that the more I could get in early with developers and development was called economic development. And we did that with sand volleyball on the riverfront, which became a huge deal for us. And so we managed those leagues. Still, now there's a women's soccer stadium that is our neighbors down there. And so I started identifying new projects that were getting ready to open. And I would go and meet with the owners and the developers to see how we could support with some sort of social activity like sand volleyball or kickball or pickleball or something like that. And this arena was actually a public building. And they had a government, actually a city hall meeting here in this building while it was torn. It was basically dilapidated. No one was using it. And they had a meeting in the basement of this arena. It was actually really cool. cool. And so it was a city hall meeting set up here. Public could attend and ask questions because on the docket was, let's take this old, amazing historic building and tear it down or turn it into a sports complex. And so it was up for vote. The city hall wanted to hear from the public. I showed up, and I actually was one of the very few to stand up and say, this will work. I've got thousands of adults playing. If you add youth, you do these sort of things. I was able to take what my thoughts were and really echo that into a big chamber that had the city involved, which I was also partners with on a couple things. And so from there, the developer came to me and said, hey, would you be involved in this project? And we became the biggest tenant with an LOI to rent the most space, to rent the most courts. And that we were a big part of getting this Hy-Vee arena open. And it's been open for about 6 or 7 years now, going pretty strong. So really exciting stuff.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting that I saw your episode of, oh, by the way, everyone, Luke has his own podcast. It's called The Facility Playbook. If you haven't seen it, you'll see it on the screen. Link will be in the description. The URL will be here on the screen. Definitely check it out. The very first video you will encounter will be that same story that Luke just shared, but expanded. Definitely worth checking out. Now,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we talk, as we shift over to Facility Ally and automation, obviously those who visited the website can see that you offer a pretty full suite of services, from org chart, budgeting, funding, branding, design, hiring and training, website meta ads, the whole kit and caboodle. But in your experience, what would you say is probably the most overlooked thing facility owners and operators just either are not aware of or they don't think seriously enough when it comes to automation?
Yeah, when it comes to automation, I think most people, and again, I've been doing this 13 years now, have a couple companies. I do a lot of consulting and work with a lot of groups, and I've again operated my own and failed a lot. And so I've learned a lot along the way that most people think automation is just software. And a lot of times you can use software to automate things, but I think the top things that people miss are hiring, and then marketing and advertising. Okay. And so when it comes to hiring, most people don't think about automation. Well, how do you hire how would you automate hiring? And so there are a lot of steps that do that, but there's also a process. And again, a lot of business owners don't really think through, standard operating procedures, SOPs and playbooks and those sort of things. And so I think those go hand in hand when it comes to automation. Is how do you have a hiring funnel that identifies the right people, hires them, trains them, onboards, and incentivizes them the right way every single time, right? And you can use technology to do that, to automate some of your trainings and some of those sort of things. And I consult on this called a hiring funnel. And we basically have been doing this for about 6 or 7 years in my business, and it works extremely well. So I think the automation part is people technically just think about software. And a lot of people in the facility worlds will say, I got my facility management software and it's going to handle everything for me. Just open the doors and people can sign up on the website. And that's just not how it goes, right? That's where the marketing piece comes in, getting your name out there, advertising, basically constantly spending money to get people in the door, and then using your data analytics to analyze that stuff. A lot of our leagues, our retention rates are barely like 40 or 50%. So if we're not constantly advertising and bringing new people in, we're not growing every year. And so those are things that people don't look at, is their number, their analytics, to really tell the story of what's happening and then figure out where to go from there. And so I think you can automate a lot of those things to basically tell that story and then to turn levers on here and there to really start to grow your business. And that's truly how you do that. Through automation, you can grow your business, you can hire, you can train. And then when it comes to marketing and advertising, now you got people coming in the door, but if you didn't hire the right person and train them the right way, then there's going to be a failure when it comes to operation. And those people aren't going to come back at an even more worse rate. And you'll have to keep working harder to get that. So those are, I think, two things that, encompass a lot of different things, but that we really focus on and that I help a lot of facilities with.
Absolutely. And your consultation catalog is quite robust. So for everyone listening, yeah, I mean, this is just testament to you guys not being just facility management software. We're talking, dare I say, end-to-end services. Yeah. Could you just share maybe 1 or 2 examples of clients that you've worked with in the past where this whole full service approach has been, extremely beneficial to them?
Yeah, so we right now we're working on a facility that hasn't opened yet, actually in Kansas City. We've been working with them for almost a year. They came to us at a point where they had the land and they had the drawings, but they didn't really have anything else. I actually watched my Facility Playbook podcast, learned a lot of stuff from that, and reached out to me to see if I could help. And in the first meeting, sitting down, just reviewing the drawings. I'm not an architect, but I'm dangerous enough to tell what's where and what's going on. I identified a couple key things in that first meeting that would have not allowed them to generate several $100,000 a year, bare minimum. And so we were able to pay for ourselves in the first meeting. meeting. And that was just looking at the experience of what is the facility layout, where are people coming in and out, how is the flow, where's your storage, do you have an event space, right? So just diving deep into that in that first meeting really paid for itself over and over. And then we did all of their branding, so built their entire logo, their voice, their brand guide, their style Bible that they'll be using to essentially affect everything down the road, which the website then we designed, all their social media content, the ads they're going to be running, and then the operations behind it. We're consulting them on that too. So they are opening later this year, and we're about to launch their website. So we're about, I would say, about 75% through the project. Once it opens, there'll be some trainings and things like that, and then they kind of take it and run with it from there. And we become their back end support team where we're doing their website and their ads and some of those sort of things as well. So a couple examples like that. That's a multi-sport facility with basketball courts, volleyball courts, pickleball courts, turf as well. And then they're actually doing a really cool thing where they're putting tenants in the front of the building, like a chiropractor and another example. So it's a multi-sport facility with some of these ancillary services that make a ton of sense. So that's an example. And then I've worked with probably 3 or 4 pickleball facilities, same concept, building out the whole idea, the brand, the org chart, the hiring, the operations, the opening events, basically everything you need to do to really get started correctly and take off and run from the beginning.
Absolutely. And I'd like to also talk about, well, your personal journey. We talked about it briefly at the beginning, but for you personally, what inspired you to actually want to get into this particular industry with Facility Ally, to expand it beyond software? And in doing so, what would you say was one of your biggest lessons learned? Obviously, mistakes are going to be made. You mentioned this. I think most people who've ever tried anything worth trying have encountered, mistake or adversity after adversity. What would you say was your biggest lesson learned going essentially from knowing little to nothing about the industry to where you're at today?
Yeah, I would say, what really got me into it was, at the end of the day, I like helping people. I really like the connection I've created in Casey Crew. And, when I hear challenges, my brain just automatically starts to think of solutions and, really just testing those out and trying those. And so when we started renting facilities and we kept getting double booked and there's all these issues at facilities, I just started thinking like, there's got to be a better way. Like, how do you manage a facility? And so I started getting in and helping and open our own and really learn from that. And so, I think the biggest mistake was that I had been doing a little bit of everything. And when we first launched Facility Ally, we just focused on the software. And now, understanding, like I said earlier, that's not the solution. That's not your silver bullet. You really need everything. You need the right software and you need the right tools, but you really need the operating system as well when it comes to people and management of programs and facilities and all of that. And so realizing that, and as we started talking to groups about that, it became more exciting. And so now letting people know that like we can help you wherever you need helps and the gaps. And even if we don't do it in-house, I have a huge list of people we've used for our facilities that we recommend, groups that maybe we're not going to make any money. Happy to introduce you to those. So again, for me, it's about being an ally and really helping people. And at the end of the day, right, if somebody goes and plays in your league and has a horrible experience and they move to my city, they're going to think they're all the same. And so if I can help others run good leagues, manage good facilities, not only does it help our industry as a whole grow, but it also helps all those people create an awesome community and have a great experience. Because at the end of the day, if they go and have a bad experience at a facility, they may stop coming. They may not go to other facilities. And as we all know, the social connection that we provide in our facilities and our programs is really important to the community.
Absolutely. And I guess as we move toward the end of this interview, I would like to talk about your perspective and what you've been noticing in our industry as far as opportunities and challenges. If we just think back 5 to 6 years, obviously COVID, was a big deal for everyone, and it affected most industries, if not all industries, in some way. And then as we got out of COVID, then we're starting to see costing issues with material cost and just a lot of things just going up in price altogether, which has been putting a bit of a strain on our industry as well. As we move into the next couple of years, what do you foresee on the horizon as both maybe a challenge for us to at least consider, and maybe even some opportunities out there? I know AI has been at the forefront of many conversations. Most people are adopting it, even those who are a little apprehensive. So feel free to talk about anything, maybe the biggest challenge you see coming and or the biggest opportunities you see coming in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I'll start with the challenges and then move into the opportunity because I think they kind of go hand in hand, to be honest. Some of the challenges I'm seeing right now are in facilities and even outside. Well, everything uses the facility, but maybe it's not a facility group. But some of the challenge I'm seeing is really around youth sports. I personally think it's gotten way too niched in that they're trying to niche too early and getting kids playing one sport from 4, 5, 6, 7 years old for their entire life, which obviously will make money for that facility if they stick with that sport. But what it's not doing is developing those kids, and it's also causing a strain on some of these families who are having to spend too much money to travel. It's gotten super competitive, and so I think that's a big problem in youth sports. We've actually just started our own kids sports program, which is exactly the opportunity that I see. I see that what facilities are missing. And one, I think there's a place for that. There's definitely a high level of competition needed. I actually played college football. I'm a very competitive person. And so high level playing is very much needed. But it's actually, in my opinion, there's a very small number of people that play that way or continue to play that way through the longevity of their life. And so think about all the kids who didn't make the team. That is an opportunity for your facility to create a program that would essentially be the top of your funnel to get all these kids playing for fun, socializing, learning different sports, and then ideally move into your next funnel as they become more competitive. And so how do you use that opportunity and use sports today, which is again hyper focusing too early and way too competitive, to essentially create another program that keeps a place for this, but allows more kids to play and funnels them into that system. And I think what we're also seeing as a part of that is, as you mentioned, since COVID, there's been a lot of things changed and a lot of things have died off. People aren't drinking as much. We used to run tons of pub crawls and really big social events. Those aren't happening anymore. But what are still happening is sports. People, adults, kids are still playing sports. They're playing social. You've seen the rise of pickleball. You've seen the rise of golf and now padel, tennis, right? So all these social sports are still happening. And so all these facilities are starting to open up. In my opinion, there's going to be a balloon and essentially too many facilities. And so I believe there's going to be a consolidation. So the ones that are doing it really well are going to have an opportunity down the road to essentially take over others to continue doing that well. So again, challenges, but also big opportunities if you look at them the right way.
Absolutely, and very good nuggets of wisdom for everyone watching. I'm sure everyone watching will appreciate that. And as we sort of close the loop on this on our interview today, I want to kind of circle back to our conference, and I would assume you'll be at our Reno event next year. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And as people come to the conference and want to connect with you, beforehand, how would someone reach out to you if they want to learn more, know more, or just, find out more about Facility Ally? What's the best way to reach you personally?
Yeah, so facilityally.com has all of our information around Facility Ally. We are launching some new stuff, which will tie in the media agency, but you can also check out the Facility Playbook there. Again, I love educating and I like sharing my knowledge that's going to help somebody. And so Facility Playbook, the entire idea is to educate facility owners out there about how to run their facility a little bit better. So check that out. But yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, Luke at facilityally.com, shoot me an email. If there's any way my team can help you, would love to do that. And then, yeah, I'll be at the conference in Reno. Really excited to be a part of that and be there socializing and also have a booth. And so if you'd like to connect there in person, definitely reach out. Would love to meet with you.
Absolutely. Well, Luke, thanks a lot for taking the time out of your day to kind of share your experience and shed some light as to what Facility Ally does. We hope to see everyone here at our conference next year in Reno, May 12th to 14th. Definitely come check us out. In the meantime, definitely reach out to Luke, find out how they can help you run your facility better, smarter, and more successfully. Luke, thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. And we'll see everyone on the next episode. Till then, take care.